Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Colony Drop, a Gundam podcast. My name is Brian, my co-pilot is Isaac, and this is the podcast where we talk about anything and everything related to Mobile Suit Gundam. And today we're going to finish off our review of Mobile Suit Gundam, the 8th MS team, one of my personal favorites. So let's get right back to it. Alright, let's head back to Zeon. How about Mr. Norris Packard?
Norris, who was a father to Aina, pretty much. Except, he clearly loves Aina and cares for her in a way that her brother doesn't share with Norris. Maybe they just never had that relationship for whatever reason. But Norris, God, he was such a cool guy. I don't know what it is or how they pick their Gouf pilots, but if you're in a Gouf, you're generally a good guy, right? You're like not only a great pilot, but like you try to protect your own people, and you're very on the Zeon scale. You're very close to the compassionate side.
That's a good point. You know, Ron Morale, Norris Packard. I agree. That's a good observation. I hadn't noticed that before.
Gouf pilots have to score pretty high on like the empathy test or something.
He was just very mature, but he was also a great pilot. He always did very well in whatever combat exercise he was doing. You know, he survived in a Zaku against the 8th team. He took a few lumps, but still walked away without dying. So that's a win when you're in a Zaku against a Gundam. And then, yeah, like you said, Aina admitted that she viewed him as a father, and that was when he made the decision to sort of make his last stand as a suicide mission to protect the Kurgan. Real shame that his sacrifice went to waste at the end. When Guineas broke the truce and the GM sniper fired on the Zanzibar, really made Norris's death be in vain. But yeah, I mean, the way he chewed through the 8th team and all those gun tanks was just amazing. Definitely one of the better pilots we've seen in a Gundam series. And even though he died, he didn't really lose. Like he wasn't even trying to kill Shiro at the end. He was trying to kill the last gun tank, and that's what he did. So while he died, he didn't lose the battle. He actually won the battle, even though his objective was sort of nullified after the fact by a outside cause. But yeah, I don't know. Norris Packard, definitely one of the best Zeon pilots around. And, I think when people love Zeon, I think they like the Norris Packards more than the Guineas Sahalians.
Excuse me. Both fought for the glory of Zeon. How dare you say such things? Garen is listening.
Is he?
What's also great about him is this guy can pilot anything, right? At one point, he pilots one of those dinky little Zeon fighter planes.
The DOPs.
Yeah, those hideous things.
Yep. He pilots a DOP. He pilots a Zaku. He finally gets his Gouf at the end. So
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, why didn't we just have him pilot the Apsalus? Right? I mean.
Yeah.
What happened in the paperwork or the red tape where that was impossible?
I don't know. I feel like Guineas is probably really.
Oh God! Yeah. That nut. He's so controlling. He's like, only my blood may pilot my creation, or something like that.
Well, think about it. I mean, when we first see the Apsalus, I don't think it has 2 seats in it. But then at the end, he puts a seat in there for himself. So I don't think he wanted Norris, piloting that.
Well, who cares if Norris is in there with his sister? I mean. They're both great pilots. You just doubled, the expertise and power of your own aircraft by putting. You just made your mobile suit twice as good by putting 2 great pilots in it.
Yeah, that's true.
What the hell is Guineas doing in the mobile suit anyway? Like checking the power levels.
Oh, looks good here. Yeah. Fire the weapon.
Typing in some code into a screen.
He does type very fast based on the visual evidence in this show. All right, and the last young character was Rear Admiral Yuri. This was the guy that pissed Guineas off.
Oh, boy. Boy, did he ever.
This guy, I felt like, and maybe this is the result of the episodes coming out very far apart, but when we first meet him in episodes, and maybe, I don't know, we meet him definitely in the first 3 episodes or so, he's a pretty creepy, like, lecherous guy. Like, he hits on Aina after acknowledging that he knew her as a child, at this like ball or it's like dance thing where everyone's dressed up formally, and he like looks straight at her boobs, and it's like, who does that? If that's he's clearly much older than her. He knew her when she was like a child. That's just weird. But
Yeah.
I feel like the version of Yuri towards the end of the show is much different. He's more respectable at the end when he's trying to get the Odessa, remnant soldiers evacuated. He lets the Magella attack squadron go out, which I loved that. I loved those guys. And then he gets killed by Guineas, so as well as the entire Magella attack squad, which is really unfortunate. But again, kind of a weird character. I don't know. What did you think of Yuri?
Yes, I understand that he's been under a lot of stress and maybe he hasn't been with a woman in a long time as he has fled Odessa. But
I
yeah,
don't think
he
that I
really.
don't think that's true. He has that
Uh,
secretary who
oh, that's
Guineas
true.
captures.
You got me there. I don't know, Brian. He's just a crude guy. Like, just all around, he's crude. There's no reason to act that way at this formal gathering, but he did it anyways, and well, he paid for it.
He
He
did.
was in that tunnel when Guineas decided to blow it. All the men
Yeah,
that he saved ended up just getting swatted out of the sky by the gym sniper. So
yeah. Guineas got his revenge for sure.
I really don't have anything good to say about Yuri except I guess to an extent he looked after his men, but at the same time he needs his men to survive. So it was look further into it. It was clearly self-interest. He's not that nice of a guy for anybody that's like, oh no, he was a father to his men and blah blah blah. It's like no, you're reading too much into this. Who knows what nonsense this lecherous buffoon was up to when he was running the show in Europe? You know,
Yeah, he had a very like macho-y design as well.
was that to
It was like
contrast with
sleeveless.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
So how they were friends, right? Is that the implication? Like he said, "Oh,
I
we used to be friends." How?
Yeah,
I don't
they
see them in the same classes together at whatever Xeon University they went to.
maybe the military academy or something like that. I do remember that as well, and I had the same thought of like these two don't seem like they would run in the same circle. So it would have to be in some sort of
Yeah.
school environment where you're forced to interact with people who maybe normally you wouldn't be friends with.
Maybe Guineas doesn't seem like he would even be in the military. Like his family's supposed to be some type of movers and shakers in Xeon. So I assume he was a scientist and they handed him a uniform and said, "Congratulations, you're now also an admiral." So-
Yeah, could be. I mean, if you make the ops list, then you're gonna move up quickly, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's no fleets around for him to command. It's kind of just a nominal rank, I guess, or something.
Yeah. And the last character I had on my list was Kiki and all of her village friends.
Kiki.
So
Or yeah,
I mean, I know you called her like maybe the annoying spunky character,
yeah.
but I don't know. Kiki grew on me over the course of the show. I think she was a good addition to the cast in terms of connecting our 8th MS team to the civilian population, around these jungles. She was actually pretty useful to the team, throughout the show. So definitely
Mhm.
wasn't like a useless character. Which, I think the characters that you're talking about where they crop up a lot, they do tend to be somewhat useless in a lot of shows. And I feel like she at least wasn't that. So I enjoyed Kiki.
Uh, she was definitely different than what we normally see. We don't really see like the little guerrilla resistance member. But I don't know. To an extent, she kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm not a big Kiki fan. Sorry to any listeners that are big Kiki fans. I know she's, essentially the personality of a cat, right? Except with missiles and RPGs. But yeah, I understand what she had to be in the show and what she brought to the show. But I could have done with a little less Kiki, and then the show would still be strong.
She has a great name, Kiki Rosita. I mean, that's an ass-kicking name if I've ever heard one.
I know it's a future, but are there a lot of Rositas in Southeast Asia?
Look, man, maybe she's an immigrant, okay?
Yeah, after the the great Spanish immigration of 2059 to Southeast Asia. Sure.
Yeah. All right, well, that brings us to the mobile suits.
You know what, Brian? We had to start with the star of the show. The star of the show, Brian.
All right.
What did you think of Gundam EZ8?
So Gundam EZ8 did not make my list of top 5 one-year war suits, but it definitely is one of my favorites. Didn't make it to top 5, but it's up there.
Are you saying it's a 6 or possibly it's top 10 or a 6?
Top 10. Top 10.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Respectable. Respectable,
And
sir.
Probably the reason is the Easy 8 has a great design within the context of this series. I don't know that it's the best design, from the 1 Year War as a whole, but in this sort of very Vietnam War film show, the Easy 8 fits the part and looks great, and it's it's badass pretty much every time it's on screen. From the fight with Norris, again where Shiro rips his arm off and beats Norris with it. It has some things we don't normally see in a Gundam. It doesn't have the normal V-fin. It has the antenna, which is much more just militaristic looking. It's got a very simple color scheme. It's got beam sabers in the hip, which is pretty neat. And then when Shiro goes all out with it at the end with the Apsalus, when it's flying through the sky trying to stab the Apsalus, it gets melted by that GM sniper. Just Shiro puts his normal RX-79 and his Easy 8 just through a ton of abuse through this show. And I don't know, I really enjoyed that suit. I think it was perfect for Shiro, who is a guy that gets down and dirty, does whatever it takes to win, and the thing takes a beating. And there's nothing left of that thing by the end of the show, because it takes first he rips his own arm off, then half of the suit gets melted by the GM sniper, and then it takes a point blank shot from the Apsalus and falls into that like crater / volcano, whatever it is.
Right.
So I don't know. I love the Easy 8. What'd you think about it?
Okay, as you know, as our listeners know, also I prefer Xeon mobile suits. But what I really like about the Easy 8 is how different it looks than our usual Gundams, which are, they slap on the colors of the rainbow on most Gundams, right? They're just the Easy 8 is almost militarily believable, right? It almost has like an urban combat look to it, the color scheme and all that. Mm-hmm. And speaking of the color scheme, something I wrote down in my notes is that Tomino originally envisioned, as you recall, Brian, he originally envisioned the Gundam as being all white, or at least mostly white. And I feel like the designers of the Easy 8 probably made it look this way to sort of harken back to that original look. What do you think? Do you think that might have been a reasoning for why it's predominantly, white and lighter colored?
Could be, yeah. I think that would make sense. I mean, if you're the animators or the mecha designer, you're trying to come up with this show, you have to make a Gundam look recognizable, and I think that's how we got the the normal RX-79, the ground Gundam, which it still looks like a Gundam, but it's a little more militaristic looking. And then when you get the opportunity to do your mid-show upgrade, that's where they make their move and get the full-on militaristic Gundam in there, and I think that's what they did with the Easy 8. Like you said, they made it sort of all one color, which is probably what we would see in the real world. Yeah. If a Gundam existed. It probably wouldn't have blues and yellows and stuff, but maybe. But yeah, I think that sounds reasonable to me. I believe that.
Yeah, I really liked how much weight it had too. It's not a Gundam that's doing backflips over Zaku's, and then slicing them with a beam saber. Right. It's almost plodding. You really get the weight of it. The design looks like it's heavy with the backpack and all that. It just came off as a very good and grounded design for a series that's really focused on grounded guerrilla type combat in jungle environments.
Agree. Well, how about it's lesser, or the normal version of it, the RX-79, the ground Gundam?
The ground Gundam I wasn't too much of a fan of, just because I didn't care much for the design, really. I thought it was a little meh. Were you really impressed by the design or wowed by it, or?
No, I definitely wasn't wowed. I mean, I think it fits very well as a Gundam in this show. But compared to other Gundams, it's not my favorite or anything. I think within the tone and the setting of this show, I think it makes sense for a Gundam to look like that. It looks like a workhorse, performs like a workhorse. I enjoyed it, but yeah, definitely not near my top 10 at all for the 1 Year War.
No, I would rather buy an Easy 8 than I would a ground Gundam. Let me put it that way. Yeah.
I do have 2 Master Grade RX-79s and the Easy 8. They were all on sale for like $8 each or something on Amazon, so I grabbed them all to make an 8th team. So
that is a steal.
Yeah, man, it's great. They're good kits. They're solid.
Even if you don't want to build like that Gundam, you can clearly turn it into something else with the kit. So
yeah, kit bash it. Why not? along the same lines, the ground GM looks pretty much like a GM version of the RX-79. So I don't know that there's too much to say there. I mean, you hate normal GMs. I assume you hate the ground GM even more because it's even more ugly.
I wouldn't say I hate it, but I mean, it's almost second place to the Leo in terms of like interesting visual design, right?
Wow.
Shots fired. I mean, comment below if you like the ground GM or the standard GM. Do you? There's no way. There's better things to like, I'm sorry, it's not that great of a design. So no, I was not thrilled about the GM versions in this series. I mean, the GM sniper kind of has the coolest scene, but you take away that sniper laser, and it's not a model you'd be interested in seeing more of, building on your own or learning more about.
I think the ground GMs, while maybe not the most exciting design, again, similar to the RX-79, I think it works for this series because you need that sort of the militaristic war film version of the GM, and I think that filled the spot admirably. But like normal GMs, I don't think they're the most exciting thing to look at, but it definitely fulfilled its role. And with respect to the GM sniper, since you mentioned that one, like you said, if you take away its gun, it really is just a green GM. And really not much else. But that gun was pretty sweet, man.
Speaking of sniper, Brian, as our Federation GM mobile suit expert, is there any great difference between this version and then the GM sniper from War in the Pocket? Or are they essentially the same? The only difference is one's clearly been adapted for Earth and one's adapted for space combat.
That's a good question. Let me look that up. Because the GM Sniper 2 definitely does not look like the GM Sniper 1.
Right. And I must say, this GM Sniper looks like literally like a sniper. Like it dare not move or leave because it needs to stay still with that big power pack to use that laser. As for the other GM Snipers, it looks like they were very mobile, right? At least in the colony.
No, the GM Sniper scene here is not really related to the other one. I don't think the one we see here is really just a normal GM, basically with a gun, like with the beam gun. The other GM Sniper 2, I think, was developed from one of the other like better versions of a GM, like the GM Kai or the GM, just like
I see,
one of those. They're not related, although they are both called GM Sniper.
So this is. This is essentially a regular GM, and because of what a crisis they had developed, facing down the Apsalus, they pretty much probably handed it a powered up beam rifle.
Well, you remember how
somewhere dark and like just wait for orders from the commander.
Well, remember, your comparison to the Leo then is maybe pretty apt, because remember we were ragging on the Leo for having like a space type and like whatever else type, and the only difference was they gave it a booster. Well, that's pretty much what happened here. They had a GM and they gave it a sniper beam rifle, and they said, "Well, look, you're a GM sniper now."
You heard it here first, folks. The GM is the Leo of the Universal Century.
But I will say the long beam rifle was pretty cool. It added a lot of suspense and a lot of action to the climax of the show. And I wish, if they ever do like 1 Year War side stories again someday, I wouldn't mind seeing some more GM snipers. Pretty neat.
Why not? Can't it just put that power pack on its back and walk around? that seems like a logical next step.
Right.
You don't need to stand still, but yeah, seeing it fire was probably one of the greatest scenes at the end, right? You think the Zanzibar's going to make it, right? And it all worked out, they got to live. But no, this beam comes out of nowhere, this pink laser, and it hits the rear of the fuselage, I guess, of the Zanzibar, and it cooks it, and it starts like bubbling up. Oh, that was such a cool effect where like the metal's like warping and bubbling up and expanding, and everything inside is being cooked alive.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so because it bubbled, do you think that the people died from like melting on the inside before it blew up?
Yeah, I assumed on the inside the explosion happened, and then that heated the metal on the outside and warped it and expanded it, and then we finally see it, bubble up and burst.
Oh man, what
You know,
a terrible way to
that
go.
heat, yeah. Because if you heat the outside, you're gonna feel on the inside, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's like you touch a microwave plate, it's gonna be hot.
Yeah. Oh, that's just terrible.
So, you know what? That's what you get for running from combat. We should have stayed behind and fought side by side with Admiral Sahalan to the bitter end for the glory of Xeon.
For the glory of Xeon. Oh my goodness.
That's what you get when you lose at Odessa. Let that be a lesson to all you Zaku pilots. Admiral Isaac will not tolerate failure.
All right, let's move to Xeon. I don't think there were any other special Federation suits we saw. Yeah, the ball, but the ball's the ball. If the GM is a Leo, I don't know. I want to know what the ball is.
May I say that Shiro really showed that, like, in a ball, with a good pilot, you can go toe to toe with most any mobile suit.
That's
right?
True. But not everyone is.
Skill is very huge. Skill is better than technology. Yeah.
Yeah, but not everyone is Shiro Amada. So.
No. For a non-new type, he was a damn good pilot.
He was.
Yeah.
All right. On the Xeon side, I mean, we saw, the usual suspects. We saw some Zaku 1s, some Zaku 2s, some DOMs. Anything to add on our usual suspects before we get to the unique stuff from this series?
We see perhaps one of the most hideous creations ever brought about in the Gundam series. Say it with me, Brian.
The
Zaku
Gog?
Tank. No.
Oh.
The Gog. The Gog.
The Zaku Tank. Okay, you're right. You're
Tank. Right. What are you talking about? How dare you insult our valiant Gog troops that died at Jabberhow?
Gog. It's just so fat.
It's pretty stupid. But yeah. I'm talking about the other one. The Zaku Tank, which I understand they threw it together, right? And the crisis is what it is, and we have to make do. But man, it is ugly. But for whatever reason, people make models of them.
Yeah, man, people love the 1 Year War. So you'll find people building models of Zaku Tank. There's I don't think we put it in the episode, but there was a ton of different Zaku Tank variants. There's not just one. So people love the Zaku Tank. There's Zaku Tank fans out there. So if you comment below if you like the Zaku Tank.
It certainly looks different. I think it's kind of hideous. What do you get by like having something so tall on like tank treads? It's just gonna get shot and easily.
It is pretty hideous, but I think that's the point in this show, right? It's just they cobbled it together with whatever they had. Because I mean, we saw that there's bits of mobile suits laying around all over the place, and so if you want to use something, maybe that's all you have, and you create a tank out of it, I guess. I don't know.
I suppose so, but man, boy, is it hideous.
So you're saying this is not on your top 10 list of Xeon 1 Year War mobile suits?
I'm gonna say no. It might be on mobile suits I wish I didn't see.
Anything on like the usual Zakus or the DOMs or...
There really isn't much to say about these for anybody watching the series. I mean, it's a DOM. It's a ground type DOM on Earth. They're ground type Zakus on Earth. Some of them get kind of beaten up and look, unique because they've clearly been through combat. But aside from that, there's nothing too special about them. Brian mentioned that we do see one use anti-personnel weapon. That's obviously not used really in space, I assume. Well, we've never seen it. But yeah, aside from that, it's Xeon by the numbers.
Yeah.
Right?
So we do get some cool, unique suits to this series. So the first being the Gouf flight type, which I don't know that we see that in many other series. I think it does it does pop up in Unicorn, if I remember right, in like the Battle of Torrington, when we get to see sort of like every mobile suit under the sun. But I think the Gouf flight type has one of the coolest like silhouettes of a mobile suit. Like I don't know, there's something about those flared legs. Just it's super cool. I don't know. I really like it. So what's your take from a Xeon perspective?
Oh man, the shoulders too. The shoulders do it for me, Brian. Those are pretty cool.
Oh, those shoulders.
Yeah. If you even look at its backpack, it's got like little wings on the backpack. Mm-hmm. But Brian, I've said this before. I'm not a Gouf guy. I just I don't know what it is. I guess I'm just too loyal to the Doms and the Zakus, even though a Gouf is pretty close to a Zaku. Man, this thing is awesome. I want a model.
I wonder if they make a model of this thing.
They do. And I even like the colors, right? Because we don't see this too much from Xeon. It's almost, it's close to Dom colors. It's not exactly. It's almost like a lavender. But anyways, I think they're pretty awesome. It's too bad we didn't see them in greater combat. It would have been cool if they had like a sub boss kind of scene, but they don't last too long in battle. But they're always cool when we saw them. They're almost like, I don't know, back whenever, they were doing test flights with the Apsalus prototypes.
Yeah, they were pretty much escorts for the Apsalus, sort of at all stages of this show. They do get shot out of the sky. After the Kurgan gets shot out of the sky, the Gouf flight types, come out of it still sort of intact. They're a little beat up, but then the sniper just shoots the Gouf flight type out of the sky, or just like pierces right through the cockpit, which is pretty sad. But yeah, so I was going to note, the reason I wanted to bring this suit up is the short film, I believe, features the Gouf flight type in action, in combat against the 8th team. So for those of you who have not seen the short film that was released with the Blu-ray box set, you should go check it out. It's probably, I won't tell you where to get it, but you can probably do some sleuthing and find it fairly easily.
In the corners of the internet, it's waiting for you.
in the very public corners of the internet. So definitely something to check out if you're a fan of the Gouf flight type, like Isaac. He's probably gonna go watch it right after this. Probably, and then order a master grade.
I
don't think they make a master grade.
Probably not, because it's such a niche gun. It's such a niche Gouf,
Yeah. They make a high grade. Let me see.
Yeah. You know what that means, Brian? We got to kit bash it from a Gouf master.
Kit bash it.
Yeah. Would you get it? I can see you having one of these.
I would definitely get a Gouf flight type to put in my 8th MS team display.
Well, there you go. Damn.
Although, before I bought a Gouf flight type, I would need to buy a Gouf custom.
The Gouf custom. What is there to say about this mobile suit, Brian? But that they took the Gouf and they improved almost everything about it.
Yeah. I mean, I ranted and raved about the Gouf custom on our top 5 1-year war suit list. So again, I won't go on at length about it. But man, what a cool suit! Just from the color scheme, the interplay between the blue and the blacks, the enormous Gatling gun, the super cool saber, which, by the way, Norris uses to great effect in killing all those gun cannons, especially that one shot that's really that's used a lot in the promos where he stands where he stands right above the, or did I say gun cannons? I meant gun tanks. Where he stands right above the gun tank and he shoves the sword into down into the gun tank through the head, and it's the oil or whatever it is splatters on his Gouf's face, and it's super cool. He twists the sword to let you know that whoever was in that gun tank is no longer alive.
Yeah, God, that was so brutal. The way they substituted oil for blood.
Yeah, great art direction. Whoever was responsible for that, 10 out of 10.
I don't think I'd buy it just because it looks too much like the original Gouf, but it was arguably the deadliest mobile suit on the show to an extent.
Yeah, on the Xeon side. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Norris really showed up the 8th team. I mean, they really couldn't stop him. If he wanted to take him on head on, they probably would have died if that was his goal instead of destroying the gun tanks, right? He had one thing in mind. It wasn't to kill the 8th team. They're lucky.
But you know what? Those gun tank pilots, I'm sure their final thoughts were, man, I wish the 8th team was better.
or they could have just rolled away, instead of just
clearly
sitting there.
They had order. Clearly, that strict order from Riot, you have to be in the city, ready to bombard using your cannons. Yeah.
And then last but not least, and I know we said we went over the Easy 8 first, is quote the star of the show, but maybe the real star of the show is the Apsalus.
It's interesting, Brian. We see an Apsalus 1, right, which is kind of the more spherical version.
Yeah.
And we see an Apsalus 3, but they kind of skipped the Apsalus too. Did you notice that?
So it's been a while since I watched this series, and on the rewatch, I specifically looked for that because I remember always, reading over the years, perusing the mecha files. I always remember seeing Apsalus 1, Apsalus 2, and Apsalus 3. And you're right. I could not pinpoint, while watching the show, which sometimes maybe it's hard. Mobile suits move fast.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't catch all the details. But I agree. I could not pinpoint the point when we moved from Apsalus 1 to Apsalus 2. You clearly can see the difference between Apsalus 1 and Apsalus 3.
Right.
But Apsalus 2, was that sort of like the mid-ish episodes? Maybe like was that the snow Apsalus?
How? That looks the same as the Apsalus 1.
I felt the same. Let me pull up a picture here.
The whole cause of this is Guineas in like the red tape, right? Like he's following Xeon protocol and it's like, all right, they wanted a number 3, so we made a number 2. He's just skipping a step by naming it Apsalus 3.
Oh, you know what? The wiki says it's a refitted version of the Apsalus 1 with a mega particle cannon.
Okay.
So I think it's literally just the same thing, just repaired, and with a cannon installed.
Well, all right. What did you think of the overall design of the Apsalus?
I liked it. I thought it was really imposing. I loved sort of just like the spikiness. I guess that's what I would call it.
Yeah.
The one thing I do not get is I don't understand why it really needs a head.
Oh my God. Thank you for saying that. That was going to be one of my points. Why is there just the tiniest Zaku head, and these are like its football pad shoulder, its football shoulder pads. It's getting ready to go charge a lineman or something. Why did it need that tiny head? Can't you just slap the mono eye into like a little, I don't know, visor section or something?
You're not wrong. I wonder if they did it on purpose to make it seem different, like give it different proportions from a lot of the mobile armors that we've seen, especially in the original series, which maybe had, as the mobile armor got bigger, the head got bigger with it, and maybe some of them look kind of 70s-ish in retrospect. This one, because the head is so tiny, I agree, it gives it a sort of football vibe, which I think it changes the silhouette and makes it seem maybe bigger than it really is. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, my headcanon is that this design with the Zaku head, it really reflects more that Xeon's really on a shoestring budget at this point. They're at the point where for this secret weapon, this powerful project that to an extent might have been forgot about, as Xeon's really focused on just surviving at this point. They're at the point where Guineas might not be getting regular supply shipments anymore. He has limited resources, so he's forced to really use a Zaku's head and mono eye as really the visual sensor of this whole mobile armor. So that's the reasoning, I think, for why it's there, because no matter what mobile armor you're looking at outside of the Apsalus, Xeon has never slapped a Dom or a Gouf or whatever head on it to just be its optical sensor.
Yeah, that makes sense. I will accept that. I will accept that explanation. The thing I like too about Apsalus is, a lot of the mobile armors that we've seen, they all had like a gimmick, right? Like some of them that Amuro fought, some of them had bits, or Xeon had those weird finger cannons. Some of the other mobile armors, they had spikes and wire guided things.
Yeah.
This one, I like Apsalus because it's straight up a flying mobile mega particle cannon.
Yeah.
And it doesn't beat around the bush, right? When you look at the Apsalus, you go, oh, there's a giant cannon in the middle of it, and it's going to shoot me. And that's all you really need to know about Apsalus.
Like, the beam that comes out of it exceeds the circumference of the circle. So you can look at it and think, I really just need to dodge this circle in the middle. No, that's going to balloon as it leaves the focal point of the beam, and just it's like the solar system of mobile armor. Because you think you're out of range of it, or you're going to be safe, but no, the beam will hit you anyways.
And it makes sense in the context of the show. in the simulation, they show that the Apsalus is meant to attack from out of the atmosphere to attack Jabro.
Right.
So it literally has one job, and that's why it looks the way it does. Like it's meant to be this mobile thing that flies up, into the atmosphere so no one can see it, and then come down and just a surprise mega particle attack on Jabro. And its design reflects that. So I like it. Besides the awkward Zaku head.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the spindly leg part, when it's deployed and set up, that looks I wouldn't say silly, but it definitely shows it kind of unstable in a way. I forgot what they said is actually inside the spheres. Maybe it was some kind of propellant or something. But,
yeah, I assumed like a cooling.
Yeah. I'm kind of glad that, the spikes didn't start flying around and, that became another threat or something like that, or points on each side were, little turrets or something.
Yeah.
It's good that it was just very much like a final boss. It shows up, it's got a big super laser, and this is it. This is the end of the show. This is what you got to fight.
Yeah. And I like, as a final boss, I like that it used its laser many times.
Yeah.
We got to see the destruction, because sometimes the bad guys, they get defeated before they do the thing, right? Not the Apsalus. It caused quite the destruction.
Yeah.
On its way out. So.
To Guinness's credit, I mean, he gave Aina a lot of time to do her little peace treaty, ceasefire, right? For like half of an episode, almost, he felt like he was sitting in the cockpit, like just yelling at her, like, "What are you doing? Like, what? You really think they're gonna listen to you and have peace? We need to go. We should open fire."
Yeah, well, he did the thing and got Yuri's troops killed. So I think that wraps up the mecha in this show. Any cool things you noticed that you want to mention before we get to our rating?
I'll say this about the intro. The intro shows a lot of cool things that sort of, they expand upon how you'd visualize the war on Earth, right? They show a lot more of the infantry actions. We see some of those Federation double-barrel tanks. So I almost would have liked to see a bit more of that in the show itself. I know we had to stay with the whole unit, the 8th MS team, but it would have been cool to see a little bit more of the other happenings on the ground with infantry units or tank units even, maybe. But, definitely something that could happen in future side stories.
Some things I noticed I wanted to bring up, just that I thought they were cool. They weren't like, plot changing or story changing or anything, but I like that this show showed how mobile suits pick up and use weapons with the little connectors that lock in from the hands to the weapons. I thought that was cool and a good way to like bring some sense of like realism to how these things grab stuff.
And explain why they're on models.
Yeah, exactly. Something I thought was cool. We saw a lot of like mobile suit maintenance in this show. Definitely at the base, and then also in like the desert area when Shiro's foot broke down and they'd like changed the filter on it. There was when Shiro's Gundam like wouldn't start up. He needed some fuses from Aina. I think that was in the snow episodes. And it also showed that like the fuses that they were using between these mobile suits were kind of modular, right? Like Aina took some from the Apsalus to give them to the Gundam, and they worked. So I thought that was kind of neat. Oh, there was a mention in the very beginning of like the 4th team, and I wondered like, oh, is that the same immortal 4th team from 083? But for those wondering, I looked it up. And it's not the same. It's not the same 4th team. Just a common numbering system. So,
of course.
It showed us touch screens on the cockpit screens, which I thought was neat. We hadn't seen those. I don't think we'd seen those before, maybe. But I think if they make this Gundam live action movie, we're definitely getting touch screens all over the monitors. Don't you think?
I think we'll see a mix. I think we'll definitely have some hard buttons, but I think it's hard not to sort of, update technology to match how our technology is now.
Right. Yeah.
Like, in any Star Trek movie that was made recently, it looks very different than the 60s version when the series originally was made. So anything Gundam in a movie will look very different than when the animated series was made.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree.
At least in terms of consoles. So we'll say that. Brian, it's time for our rating with the Haros.
Oh boy. Do you want to give your rating first? Should I?
I'll do it. All right. Gundam, 8th MS team. I give it. You know what? You almost have to view it as a different ranking system in a way, or at least view um, as a side story than a full series. So for that said, for having great battles, a great pacing in the story, and really good characters that were well written, I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 Haros.
Well, maybe I'm spoiling my rating a little bit since I already called this out in my top 5 series shows. So, my rating's gonna be pretty high. So my rating's gonna be 9 out. I'm gonna keep my 10 scale. I'm gonna go 9 out of 10 Haros here.
9 out of 10. Wow.
Yeah. I just really like this show. I thought it was it was focused. It was grounded as much as you can be with giant robots. I liked pretty much the whole 8th MS team. I thought they were all good characters. They all had good backstories that were introduced subtly enough to not be overly exposition-y. It had a believable romance, even if it started a little quick. While they didn't have, a million mobile suits in it, the unique ones that it did have were great and very memorable, and people still enjoy them today. A brisk pacing, focused plot, had what I thought was a good resolution that was not just, good guys win and they go home. I thought all the characters grew and very memorable. So I really enjoyed it. I think it holds up pretty well. And you can watch this show. It's available on Hulu. I think that's probably the only streaming service available on. I can't remember if it's on any others, but definitely check around. It might be on Crunchyroll as well, or Funimation. It's definitely not on Netflix, but you can watch it on Hulu. So 9 out of 10 Haros. I'm sticking with it.
You've heard our scores, listeners. Now it's time for you to check out the series if you haven't seen it, or comment below and tell us what you thought about the 8th MS team, how it compares to other Gundam series, what you liked about it, what you didn't, and maybe favorite scenes, favorite characters.
Yeah, let us know. So hit that like button, subscribe, and you can send us comments on YouTube or on Twitter at Colony Dropcast. See you next week.
Bye. Take care.